Newspaper editor, published photojournalism must always present the events covered without distorting those events. So this is essentially without distorting those events. Okay. Sometimes an image distorts the events a photojournalist attempts to capture, such as when the photojournalist has an equipment failure. So sometimes the image distorts the events, right? Now, in such cases, photojournalists are permitted to make minimal changes to an image, but only to the extent that they are certain about what they observed and those changes reduce the distortion. So they're saying that sometimes because of some equipment failure or something, the image does not capture the actual event that the photojournalist wants to capture, does not capture the reality. In that case, the journalist is allowed to make changes to the image, is allowed to edit the image, but only to the extent that the journalist is certain about what has happened, what they have observed, and making those changes, it reduces the distortion. So it just improves the accuracy of the picture, as long as it improves the accuracy of the picture. Yeah. All right. Now, photojournalists' photos are often compelling works of art as well as documents of newsworthy events. So we are saying that these pictures are works of art, and of course they are newsworthy events. So till now we have talked about photojournalists, showing us the accurate picture of an event, right? So we were essentially talking about the newsworthy events, but they're now telling us that they're also works of art. All right. However, for publication as journalism, where you are reporting events, right, a photo's aesthetic features, so basically, the artistic features, the aesthetic features are allowed to be considered only after the photo is shown to accurately portray relevant features of the event it depicts. So then what they're telling us, this is the most important sentence, right? What they're telling us is that first comes accuracy. The picture must be accurate. After that, if I am sure that the picture is accurate, then I can consider whether the picture is pretty or not, right? Aesthetic, aesthetic value, let's just call it pretty. So then first, I have to ensure that this is accurate. Then I can consider whether, for example, if I'm looking at two pictures, now one of them is accurate, the other is not accurate, but it is prettier than the first one, I cannot consider the second one at all. Excuse me. Yeah. My accuracy has to be the first thing that has to be considered. The aesthetic features come in later. Yeah. Okay, just give me a moment. All right. Now, in accordance with these criteria, in our journalistic coverage of event E, we elected to publish photograph P1 rather than photograph P2. So then the editor is saying that we preferred P1 to P2, yeah, based on these criteria. Now, what can we say about P1 and P2? There are a lot of things that I can say, right? I can infer a lot of things. I can say perhaps P1 was accurate and P2 was not accurate. That is possible. Perhaps P1 was accurate and P2 was also accurate, but P1 was prettier than P2, right? Then I would have selected P1, right? All right, so let me look at the statement. Assuming the editor's statements are true, if dash, then it must be the case that dash. Now, look, this is an if statement, right? This is if A, then B, right? Then must be the case that B. Also recall that when I have an if A then B statement, then my B is my necessary, right? This is my sufficient condition and this is my necessary condition. I don't even have to worry over here because I'm given must be the case. Already I'm given that this must be the case. So I'm given that this would be necessary then. That if this has taken place, then this must have happened for sure, right? Okay, now I have to make two selections, right? Now, P1 was altered, P2 was altered. P1 and P2 were taken with malfunctioning equipment. P1 was chosen over P2 at least in part for its aesthetic features, and both P1 and P2 accurately portrayed. Now, look, So first thing that comes to mind is, okay, P1 was altered, P2 was altered. Is it necessary that if P1 was altered, then it must be the case that P2 was altered? Now, what if both P1 and P2 were a little distorted because of the equipment failure, right? But then we corrected P1, there was less distortion in P1, we made minimal changes and we selected P1. Is it necessary that P2 would be altered as well? We have anyway selected P1, right? So this anyway was altered. Does this mean that P2 was altered too? No, because we can say that P2 must have been altered only in case we know that P2 did not accurately depict the events, but P2 was published. Then P2 must have been altered to depict the events accurately, right? So then for sure, I cannot say that if P1 was altered, that means P2 must have been altered. Perhaps P2 was just eliminated, was just ignored. It was not altered, right? Who says that I have to alter a picture that I'm not using? So of course, I cannot use this one. Yeah, that is why this thing does not work, right? All right. Now, is it necessary that if P2 was altered, then P1 must have been altered as well? No, P1 might have been accurate beforehand. So I don't have to say that then P1 must have been altered. So of course, then, these two don't really make sense. And here, of course, I'm going to have two things that make sense together in this sentence. Yeah. All right. Now, let me see. Look at this. P1 was chosen over. Now, quite a few of you have come down to these two options, 4 and 5. P1 was chosen over P2, at least in part, for its aesthetic features. But both P1 and P2 accurately portray the relevant features of event E. But you guys have change the sequence. Yeah, a lot of you have selected this as the first one and this as the second one. And this is where the question is tricky. And that is why here you have to know that this needs to be the first one and this needs to be the second one. It all comes down to what is necessary. Yeah. If I know that P1 was chosen over P2, at least in part for its aesthetic features, if I had said that, you know what, I'm going to pick P1 because it is prettier than P2, then what is it that you can say for sure? I have already said, we have been given that accuracy is extremely important. I will think about how pretty the pictures are only once I know that they must be accurate, right? I've already said that then if I'm choosing P1 over P2 because P2 is prettier than P2, P1 is prettier than P2, that means it is essential that both P1 and P2 accurately portray the relevant features of event E, right? Because this was necessary. This accuracy was necessary for me to even consider the prettiness of the picture, right? So then when I say if this was chosen because this was prettier, then it is essential that both P1 and P2 accurately portray the relevant features of event E. Now, why is the flip case not okay? Yeah, why is this not okay? If I say if both P1 and P2 accurately portray the relevant features of event E, fair enough. Then it must be the case that P1 was chosen over P2, at least in part for its aesthetic features. Is it essential? Guys, have I been told that these two are the only features, and when accuracy, both are accurate, then the one which has better aesthetic features, that is the one which is selected? There could be other characteristics of the pictures as well, right? I am not given that the first criteria is accuracy. Once this is once this is done, then I look at prettiness of the picture, the aesthetic features of the picture, and that's it. That is how I select pictures. I'm not given that there could be 10 other criteria, right? The accurate is fine. Let's say there was better light with P1. It may not have anything to do with the aesthetics of, I selected P1. It is not necessary that P1 was chosen rather than P2 because P1 had better aesthetics. It's not essential, right? But if P1 had better aesthetics than P2, and if I had considered that aspect, it means that both of them must have been accurate, because my accuracy is the necessary condition for me to even think about how pretty the pictures are. right? And that is why I keep saying that sufficient and necessary conditions are extremely important where DI is concerned, because we do understand that what comes over here is the necessary part of it. Must be the case that anyway, this is the second part of an if statement, which means that this is the necessary condition, this is the sufficient condition, which means that, and since I know that accuracy is necessary for me to even consider prettiness, that is why I'll get the accuracy aspect over here. So my this 5 is going to come over here, and my part 4 is going to come over here. Yeah, again, this is one of the trickier questions, and I hope you understand it now. Yes, absolutely, Sanket. So the necessary condition logic, and believe you me, in a lot of those hard questions, they are going to, put this necessary versus sufficient condition, etc. So you need to be very, very clear about what is necessary with what. Yeah. If you've seen the modules, there are these Venn diagrams that we use with necessary and sufficient conditions, right? That what is a subset of what. So if there is confusion, you should always try and make that, and then ensure that you don't get that wrong. Yes, absolutely, Manu. It is a hard question. Yeah, most certainly it is a tricky question, hard as well, and tricky question because yes, a lot of people choose the flip. Yeah.